We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Boom! Headshot!
Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I want to do a why buy on Ryze. Ryze is the rogue mage, and he's pretty much a beast. Seeing a lot of play in competitive LCS matches recently, and he is a very, very strong champion. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this why buy. I'm actually going to do it in a Dominion game, which has a couple things. Number one, the gameplay is a little bit different, but I'm still going to talk about him in general as I would for a normal gameplay, for a normal map, all of that good stuff. But the big thing here is that it's shorter, so it's a little bit more straightforward, it's a little bit more to the point, and it's nice because you get to see a really consistent use of his skills and abilities, which I think might be helpful. Some people may prefer, so just let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoy having this Dominion game. It's a little bit shorter, the information will be hopefully a little bit more straightforward, or if you enjoy having the more full-length 40-minute gameplay, you know, where you can really see it in action. So let me know your preference down below. But let's go ahead and get into it because we don't have a ton of time here. But this is Ryze. He's the rogue mage. He's a very interesting champion. I believe he's the only champion of his sort to primarily scale off of his mana pool. So we'll get into that in a minute, but let's first talk about his passive. This is Arcane Mastery. Basically, this gives him bonus cooldown by 1 second every time he uses an ability. So once he casts a spell, all of his other abilities will have their cooldown reduced by 1 second. This works really, really well with his kit. He's very, very much dependent on cooldown reliant. I believe people at Riot Games refer to him sometimes as Machine Gun Ryze, just because he is so highly able to just absolutely pound out his spells in rapid succession, and is primarily because of his passive. And anytime you're getting into a fight and you're chaining together his abilities, you're going to want to use your passive to your ability to make sure you can get as many spells off as you can. Next is his Q. This is Overload. It is a little red orange ball of energy that he'll fire out. You can see I'll probably lead off with almost every combination. There's one right there. Threw it onto that Renekton. This is his primary damage dealing spell. It's on a 3.5 second cooldown, and it's got 650 range, a very, very standard nuke, straightforward AP centered ability. There's a nice flash, W, and then QE to finish off Caitlyn, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's finish talking about his Q. This is his primary damage tool. It's your bread and butter with Ryze. It has a passive component that gives him up to 10% cooldown reduction, and then an active component where it shoots out that little red ball of energy, which deals damage. And like I was saying, Ryze scales off of mana, and this ability is the prime example of that. You gain, it has a base level of magic damage, and then it has a 40% AP scaling ratio, which is relatively low compared to a lot of spells of this sort, but then it has a plus 6.5% max mana. So the idea here is that you build mana, and that allows you to, number one, rapid fire all of your abilities, but then number two, it'll boost your damage output on your Q. So if you take a look right now, you can see I built a Tear and a Catalyst, the Protector, both of which are very core early game items. I already have over 1100 mana, so that's giving me a plus 76 damage on, you can see right there, I'm only getting plus 8 from my AP, which I only have 20, but I'm getting plus 76 bonus damage already from a level 3 Q. So very, very fantastic ability. You're almost always going to want to lead off with this ability in any of your combos, just because of the way that, so if you throw out your Q first and then follow it up with your other abilities, based on your passive, your cooldown on your Q will be reduced, so you will likely be able to use it again in only 1 or 2 seconds, just because if you're using your other abilities, it's going to reduce the cooldown on your Q. I'm going to go ahead and finish off Caitlyn right there with one last Q to get that kill. So that's his Overload primary ability, definitely one that you're going to want to use a ton. You pretty much just spam it. Next is his Rune Prison, his W. This is his primary sort of CC. It is a basic root. It does not stun or anything like that. It just holds your enemy in place. They can still attack, but they just cannot move. The more points you put into it, the longer the duration gets. Goes up from 0.75 to 1.75, which is fairly significant. So I like to max this second. Again, this ability has a base damage, magic damage. It also scales off of a 60% AP ratio, which is actually a very standard AP scaling. It's a very average. And then it also adds plus 4.5% of your max mana. So again, doing plus 69 extra damage while I have plus 100 extra damage on my Q. So again, you build mana on Ryze, and you're going to be able to add to your damage. So you're getting a nice double kill there onto Caitlyn. There, anytime you see this little white, I wonder if it's actually on cooldown right now. I will try to point it out right there on Evelyn. There, I used my W to root her in place. Very strong CC ability. You definitely want to get a point in this early on. And then this is your primary tool. It makes Ryze a fantastic ganker in the mid lane. Fantastic for your jungler to come and gank for you when you're playing in the mid lane. Just because you can use your own CC to help boost your jungler, give him a little bit of an extra ability to really make things happen. So really nice ability with this Rune Prism. You can catch people out. Solid stuff there on that ability. Next is his E. This is his Spell Flux. This is his primary AoE damage source. This one, basically you throw out a nuke and then it will bounce and it will deal magic damage and reduce magic resistance. So very nice there. It synergizes with the rest of his kit. All of his spells deal magic damage. So you'll throw out this E, and this is going to reduce the magic resist so that every subsequent ability you use will again do extra damage. So you can use it right there on Kale. I pretty much use this third in my combo, so my basic combo would be Q, W, E, Q. Because like I said with his passive, you want to start with your Q, and then allow the other abilities to reduce the cooldown on your Q, and then so your E is going to be mostly for that use. I mostly use it for its magic resist reduction. I tend to put 1 point in this early on and then max it last. You could max it second if you're going for a little bit more damage and you just want to use the Rune Prism for more of its CC and its utility. It's pretty much up to you. I would say both ways are pretty viable. Again, this ability will scale with your max mana as well as a base AP level. So it actually has a very interesting mechanic where it will actually deal more damage the fewer times that it bounces. So it has a maximum damage to one target and then a baseline magic damage to multiple targets. So a total of 6 hits. So very, very good stuff there. I believe that the only way that it would deal its maximum damage is if you're in like a one-on-one situation and it just bounces back and forth between Ryze and between its target. So you want to be within 200 range because that's the bounce range right there. So basically you want to get in close, throw out your E, and let it bounce between you and the one-on-one target to really maximize its damage. But for the most part, I tend to use it just as a part of my combo, more for my passive than anything. Not so much for a really strong damage source. Also, like I said, the utility that it brings with its magic resist reduction. But overall, a strong ability, definitely helps out part of his combo. Good stuff right there. And then lastly is his ultimate. Ryze has a very interesting ultimate. It is called Desperate Power. Basically, he gains Spell Vamp, movement speed, and then all of his spells will deal AoE damage in a 50% around the original target within 200 range. So 50% of their damage within 200 range of the target. So anytime you see me pop my ultimate, you'll actually see that when my spells land, there's a little ring around the target that indicates that it's doing that AoE damage. So the spell vamp goes from 15 to 25%, which is quite significant. The movement speed goes 35 to 55, which is really good. And then it's up from 5 seconds to 7 seconds as you increase it. They're using my ultimate right there. You can see how every time I'm throwing out a spell, you can see that it's got that little circle indicating that I'm doing AoE damage. Getting a nice double kill right there. But basically, this is a really nice ability, and you can use it. It's mostly used for its wave clear and its team fighting. Also, the movement speed is really nice, but and you can use it pretty much at will. At max level, it has a 50-second cooldown, but then remember his passive. His passive will allow you to reduce the cooldowns as well. So coming to the end of this game, those are his abilities. Basically, with Ryze, in terms of items, you want to build anything that pertains to mana. So a Rod of Ages is really, really good. Tear of the Goddess is core. Things like a Frozen Heart or a Iceborne Gauntlets, a Banshee's Veil, all of those type of items are really, really good. One of the best things about Ryze is that because he scales with mana, he's not so much dependent on AP items, and that allows him to build tankier. So, and this is an important part of his kit because all of his spells, 650, 625, 675 range. So he doesn't have a ton of range at his disposal, but he makes up for that for his damage and his consistent damage source. He's not so much a burst mage as a very consistent source of damage. You know, solid CC with his W, and he can build tankier. You can build a lot of armor and magic resist, even health, and be a very tanky damage source. He scales extremely well into late game. You know, mana items, there are a lot of them to choose from, and a lot of them give you a ton of good statistics, including, you know, health and armor and MR. So it makes him a very, very strong mid laner as well, and definitely one that, if you're a newer player, I'd highly recommend picking up Ryze. Just a little tip with him too, if you don't know how to smart cast, I think it is absolutely essential with Ryze because you're casting his spells so quickly. So I have another video on my channel about smart casting, go ahead and check that out, but looks like I needed a little bit more time here, so I'm not sure if I'll continue with this using Dominion games, but please let me know in the comment section below whether you like a little bit more of this shorter, straightforward approach, or if you prefer the longer games. So definitely let me know what you guys think, but that's Ryze the Rogue Mage, and he's a really strong choice. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon.